topic that we were going to talk about today was gatekeeping, and I guess even by gatekeeping, I mean, what in particular about gatekeeping irks you? And anything, it could be anything that a particular interest or a hobby, or even a way of being, or a magical practice, or even gatekeeping like a musical artist, for example. Like, what's one thing that really
that irks me as far as the gatekeeping? And we're gonna get kind of again, we picked this topic before we started, but I find it interesting, kind of fit into what we were doing before, and then bloop, it just came out. But
Hi, Gwen.
Hello, Omar. How you doing?
How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Obviously, this whole Gemini action.
You know what's funny is that I think that people think that we're not necessarily focused, but we really are.
We stay pretty on point. There have been times where I've gotten on the playbacks for the podcast, and I'm like, what did I just say? And you just went boom, bloop, and then boom, boom, boom. It just jumped.
Boop, 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 boop. I have this little music box that I play from time to time when I want to be silly, but I'm just just because I look distracted doesn't necessarily mean I'm paying attention.
Yeah. By the way, since we skip around, you might want to say hi, everybody, and welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole podcast.
Yes. Welcome everyone to Down the Rabbit Hole podcast with Gwen and Omar. How y'all doing?
Hi.
Welcome back. Take it all in.
I'm really liking this energy that we are exhibiting today, though. I don't know if it's a shout out to Lorena. Lorena sent me the package, my little care envelope, and I was telling Omar, because we had been talking before this podcast. But I was making the tea that she gave me, and it has glitter, which I've never had tea that's had glitter in it before, and it's called Practical Magic, by the way.
Ooh.
And it's making me feel a certain way.
What's it taste like?
Let's see.
Also, what's on your mug?
Hail, great Queen Morrigan and all her glorious forms.
Hail, Morrigan.
Hail.
Hail.
Let's see. I was trying to remember I got gifted for this for my Christmas Yule birthday from a friend, and she's actually on YouTube also. Mm-hmm. But she designed this. She has face masks, the poster of this, and the mug, so I'll make sure to put the link down below. But the way that this tea tastes feels like love in a mug. So it does. It's got the rose lavender kind of notes, and I don't know. It's just doing something. So thanks.
Listen, from the moment we spoke before even starting the podcast, I was like, all right. And you just dunked that thing right in and started sipping on it. I was like, okay, honey, let's do this.
She did tell us that there was a package coming for us, that we need to drink that coffee at the same time on a podcast.
Was it the one that was from Hector?
I believe so. So yeah. Yes.
How's your chest feeling?
Because we're doing this.
I'm feeling her heart center. I mean, we were just talking about love.
Yeah, I'm like, people are watching this, and I'm over here just hi, but really my chest is down here. But anywho, no, yeah.
Okay.
know where to go with this.
No, it's fine. I just like watching you be silly because I'm just like, no, I'm watching you perform by all means. Because I think that when I start getting real silly, it's like the circus is back in town, and I'm like, yep, hello everybody. Woo. I think we were having a conversation. I think it was like earlier this week about how um people underestimate both of us, not on like together, but I guess separately in our own individual lives. How I'm a Gemini sun and Gwen's a Gemini moon. And in a way, people try to like, I guess, paint a picture of us that's very self-limiting, where it's like when someone were to, let's say, for example, like upset us or trigger us, we have a very great way of, and I don't know if this sounds very egoic or I'm like tooting my own horn or anything, but it's very just like, you know, I am patient, or we are very patient, but you guys don't even know that secret, like, Gemini twin that I've tied down. Because if I let that person out to play, it's like, ba ba da bum. Hi, the circus is here. Also, I'm the Riddler and Gwen's basically the Joker. So if we were to live in the same town and be constantly always together, I mean, we're always together through electric dreams and via conversations, but if we were actually living in the same area, we would create chaos. We would dismantle the social order with our witch cackles and our uh, giddiness. And I think that people most of the time don't realize that, like, oh, we love to play. Don't get us started because we'll play. But I see you trying me over there. I see you. I'm not gonna pay attention to you, but just watch because one moment I might just say something funny.
I'm gonna get you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like Joker, and I was like, oh, that's so dark, but I like it though, and I think that's like a really good like compliment because one, I could actually kind of see like the Joker as far as like my sun sign, where it's like when he gets down to business of being serious and like doing like the terrorizing of things,
Mm-hmm.
he still jokes about the situation, which is like kind of like what I do sometimes. Like it could be
Mm-hmm.
like a really like mom slash dad joke, with puns all over. But but yeah, it's very like oh, you think you got me? Like just Gemini shadow twin. Let's go like Beyonce Lemonade up in here.
Mm-hmm. I just
Yeah.
think that like if there was one villain, it'd be the Riddler because I ask a lot of questions, but I like to answer questions in riddles or even tell someone something in the form of like, was that a compliment or was that an insult? I'm like, you can take it however you'd like.
I like that smile in the end. You can take it however you like.
It's very like the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland, where it's like, who are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
What are you saying? I don't know. Maybe it's for you to figure out. Or like, did I just like sass you? I don't know, but I said it pretty sweetly. You'll never know. And that's what I love, I think, really, in reality. Um, keeping people guessing because again, like the topic that we were going to talk about today was gatekeeping. And I guess even with by gatekeeping, I mean, what in particular about gatekeeping irks you and anything? It could be anything that a particular interest or a hobby or even a way of being or a magical practice or even like gatekeeping like a musical artist, for example. Like what's one thing that really
that irks me as far as the gatekeeping, and we're gonna get kind of like, again, we picked this topic before we started, but like I find it interesting, like kind of like fit into what we were doing before, and then bloop, it just came out. But what irks me the most, I guess, is kind of like as far as in the magical practitioner or like witch community, because I've had that done with me.
Mhm.
And maybe the person didn't even realize they were doing it. Even just everyday stuff. I mean, you just think about like a bouncer at a bar. Like I remember specifically one time, there was a particular bar like out in College Station. I don't even know if they're still open or not. They might be, but one guy wouldn't let me in because I didn't um have like, I guess, my bra at the time with spaghetti straps. They just didn't like it, so he didn't want to let me in. I guess because it was the way I was dressed. And I was just like, it's how you have to fit in that certain stereotype or aesthetic, which is kind of what we see all over social media. Um, and even just like I said, the everyday people do it at jobs too, like kind of putting on how you should put your own, I guess, way aside of certain things. And if you even present it in a respectable way of how you saw a certain situation, it's like, but we don't do that here, and you kind of need to like be muzzled a bit. And I keep telling everybody, I don't like being muzzled. I don't like being controlled. I don't like any of that. So I
Mhm.
guess that's kind of why I didn't take the Joker as kind of like ooh, that's bad. Like, no, I see that 100% because it's been so stifled at times where it's just like, forget it. I do have the Gemini twin tied to a chair, the shadow twin, but like she's itching sometimes, man. And when she gets loose, y'all better watch out. Like, that's all I can
Mhm.
say. That's all I can
No,
say.
but I think that when it comes to gatekeeping, for me, it could be even in a form of social construct because I think that you and I sort of agree with if someone tells us no or you can't do that, you have to do it this way, or you have to you can't get so I guess even with envy, people envy the way that you are receiving a sense of attention for the way that you're doing it. And it's like, well, that's wrong because you're supposed to do it this way. And like I understand how one must feel when they are they've learned or are learning the rules or learning something about something, about a practice or a way of life or whatever. Um, I don't I was never I never like being told that like, oh, you had to be a certain way or look a certain way to be um for instance, like we all know there are clubs or bars where there is a sense of exclusivity where you have to have a membership to be at that spot. If there's one thing I don't like is being told that like, oh, only if you have this caliber of money or someone to get in. I don't like that sense of exclusivity because for me, that's a form of gatekeeping. And it's like, well, if this place is such an amazing place, wouldn't you want everyone to come visit and experience that? Like, for instance, like there's Club 33 at Disneyland, where you have to know someone that has sort of membership to go in there. And I understand why it's not necessarily open for the public, but at the same time, I realize, well, why can't everyone experience that? For me, when someone tells me no, I don't let that affect me in a way where I'm like, oh, I can't, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to go there. I'm not allowed to express myself this way. Well, I'm going to break the rules in a way where it's very clever, but at the very end of the day, I'm still going to get my way because being told no always opens up another door. It always revs up the engine to want to dismantle the social order, or even like you know, rules in art that are so, I mean, for instance, when we have Andy Warhol, for example, he was just painting like soup cans, and then no one really saw that as art, but in reality the commentary behind it was that there is art everywhere, and not only is there art everywhere, but something so mundane can be elevated to be high art. And in that way, I think we broke molds. But even within ourselves, how are we self-limiting ourselves into creating our own rules? And how are we creating our own rules for ourselves? And at the same time, how do we break those rules so that we can ascend higher? But at the same time, we're always going to be open for critique from other people, but that isn't necessarily an indication that we should stop doing the things that we have been doing to break the mold to appease others.
No, a lot of it has to deal with like the psychological aspect, doesn't it? And it's very much the subconscious. You know, because I know for me personally, and especially being a magical practitioner, which you know, I will never forget, and um I will have to say I've had somebody tell me uh when I think it's a safe space, because I had just posted about the video with the Demons of Magic book, right? And I had I had told somebody I thought I could trust that or no judgment, I guess that's the better way to put it, was you know, well, I really hope that it does work out for you in the end and this person doesn't find out that you doing this and casting ritual for a demon, they don't find out that you cast it on them, because people can find out, and especially being an inexperienced witch. So right there, that is somebody taking my power away. Um, they don't know what I am capable of. And this is me reclaiming my power back for allowing that type of behavior to enter into my bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but for the months that passed, and it's not to sound egoic or anything like that, but when you have somebody that's putting their own position of how they think or feel about a certain thing, or what they come to believe, it does limit your behavior, because it's like, I think that I am in a position where I can trust a person. Uh, they could be friend XYZ, and then what happens is it's kind of like creating that space of being like, I genuinely care about what you have to say, and these things must be true. But then there's like this trauma effect. And so we don't believe how powerful that we really are. And so there is the gatekeeping. It's the gatekeeping from this person, and then you've already gatekeeped yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is why it's kind of like, because Omar and I were talking about this like before, it's like, yeah, it's the self-limiting beliefs. Um, whether what we learned from family, from friends, like all these things that we've allowed inside for us is what really keeps us from maybe getting to the next level, or healing from trauma, or anything really, or manifestation, you know, when these things happen in our lives because we allow it in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, we can even like take it down to like a very basic surface level way of gatekeeping, where, for instance, like say you were my mother and I was your child, and I wanted to do something for work or go to school, to college, so to speak, for an art form, and you were to tell me, well, you shouldn't do that because you'll never make any money. And you know, like, that's a self-limiting belief because you never really know. And at the same time, you tend to believe that, like, okay, well, I shouldn't go to do that artsy thing that I want to learn and, you know, get a major in so I can go work in business so that I can make money. And in a way, you gatekeep your own you know, your own creativity, your potential, because in reality there is unlimited potential available for us. But if we only believe, because believing is really seeing, and when you believe, there is a momentum that is being created through your emotions, because emotions are a very important thing in life to pay attention to, and in manifestation, or in magical practice, or in whatever. But just unlocking the belief that, like, I don't know what this is, and really looking at the diamond in the rough, being like, I believe that if I refine this and I really focus, not really focus, but have open my heart and my third eye into believing that there is, may not pay now, but at least there is joy behind it. There is unlimited potential behind that door. It's just only when we self create our own limits where we aren't able to, and we carry these like some self-limiting beliefs, even in the way that we dress. I remember once I was dating this guy, and I looked at his jacket and I was like, wow, I really like your jacket. I wish I could wear something like that. And he told me, well, you can too, but like, oh, I could never. Like, that's too flashy for me. It's too loud. And he's like, no, I think you can. It's just that you're just too afraid to. But when you're ready, you can. It's just that, like, you're just afraid and you're putting self limits on yourself to express those things that are shiny, or just sort of like, wow, that's so wild. I mean, even that, remember that part in was it Miss Congeniality, where she was one of the contestants was like, oh, here are the red underwear that you wanted. She's like, oh, I could never have those because my mommy said that it were devil's panties.
Devil's panties. And now she's wearing red every day. I'm kidding.
No, and she won the whole pageant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the certain things that we are taught, or and then we believe them to be facts or true, and then at some
You
point
pass
it's
those
like
on.
you pass them on, and it's like the light bulb goes off, and being like, oh my gosh, you're telling me like I can, like this isn't true. um I mean, not to bring like recovery into this, but like it's kind of the same thing with like with Alcoholics Anonymous or recovery programs. It's like, you know, we believe that we were bad people for the things that we have done because we feel shame. And it's like, no, we're not bad people. We just made bad decisions under the influence. But are we willing to make it better and decide to make a change, you know? And so
Mhm.
that's what I liked. And it was just like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, no, I completely agree. But what else as far as like gatekeeping experiences have you had, or there's something that like sticks out with you?
Um, I suppose, even, well, for me personally, it's more of a, you could never, for instance, I used to serve tables. I used to be a server. But not since the pandemic. I haven't worked in a restaurant. Like, I enjoy it, but at the same time, when I first started serving tables when I was like 20, 21, I saw how much attention other servers got, but just by being themselves. And I was like, I want to make money like they do because I want to survive. But how do I do that? And at the same time, I was still sort of like in the closet, you know, with my sexuality. And at the same time, I was like observant. I was watching them, and I was like not necessarily like being obvious by how I was learning from them, but I was like, okay, how do I get there? And so at some point, um, I started getting a lot more attention because I started making more money. And I guess, your heart center is also is ruled by money. It's love, it's Venus, it's also green. So I saw that others would get really jealous of the way I was making money. And I was like, why are they telling me that, oh, you're not allowed to do that, or you can't talk to that table for that long, you have other tables to take care of. And I'm like, but I'm still getting paid. So why are you telling me how I should do things because they're not working for you? And then I realized, oh, I'm doing something different. And if I'm doing something different and I'm upsetting everybody, I must be doing something right. Because you realize the moment when you struck gold, when people are telling you, oh, you can't do that. Don't go too far. Oh, that's wrong. Also, that's not how I did. I'm like, well, how I'm doing is completely different. And I'm not here to try to copy you, because I remember going to culinary school and there was a chef instructor and she said, um, never compare yourself to me because you'll never be as good as me. But I would really want you to use me as an example to live up to, but not compare yourself to me, because at the very end, I do things my way. You have to do things your own way. Never be like me. Be as good as me. And that really spoke to me, because I realized, like, we all have within the differences within us, we all have something to add to the table. We all contribute somehow differently, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should limit how others do things out of envy or out of jealousy, which is basically kind of the same thing, but like, um, or try to like emulate, because at the same time, we all have our own unique things that we bring forth.
Mm-hmm.
So why am I I can only show someone, or even when it came to like training other people at the several jobs that I've had, like in the hospitality industry, it's really showing someone, this is how I do it. I can see that you're having trouble. I'm not telling you how you should do it, or this is the way to do it, but this is the way that it works for me. And if you learn the rules and get familiar with what you're working with, then that's when you can break rules and make it the way that you want to. Because the way I greet customers and the way that I generate sort of tips would be something different than you do, because I'm very much a social extrovert disguised as an introvert. And sometimes others can be very introverted. So I can't tell them, like, hey, you kind of have to like charm them. You have to be this and, be louder than life. I had to learn that my way. I learned that from observation, from social observation.
Mm-hmm.
And in this society, we don't teach um, emotional or social intelligence, because we think that we have to compare ourselves to someone else to reach a certain sense of greatness. But in the end, we are all creators, we're all artists, we're all magical people that have something unique about the way we put our own twists on things. So,
Yeah.
I don't ever want to gatekeep anyone else into conforming them into a box, because I myself have never liked to be controlled or sort of censored, or even, oh, you shouldn't say that. And I'm like, listen, I can say whatever I want. Also, who's going to check me? Who's going to tell me that I can't express this? Because given the, religious background that I grew up with in a very Southern Christian Baptist like upbringing. And even there, we were told like, you can't do this, you can't do that. And at some point I was like tired of it. I was like, you know, just like in the Little Mermaid, like I just can't see that a world of wonderful things can be that bad. And so I metaphorically already purchased my ticket to hell, and I'm glad I did, even though it isn't hell. They tell you that it is, but in reality, it's really putting a cap on your creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I would much rather experience all the spectrum, all the colors within the spectrum, and know that I've tasted this, I've well traveled, I've been there, and you know what? I was told that going out there was going to be detrimental to me. Or even like even taking it further, being like, well, if you smoke weed, I mean, have you seen this like ridiculous commercials from like the 2000s, the 90s, like, oh, and they smoked weed and now they're dead, or
Mm,
now they're gay. It's like, what? What? Okay, no. It's all based on an individual experience. So who am I to
yeah.
tell someone like, hey, try psychedelics and might open your mind? Because they don't even need to. They already perhaps have had so much information via the Akashic records that they didn't need psychedelics to awaken or some sort. You know what I mean? So whatever works for you, but also don't be afraid to go outside of your box, because that's where the potential lies, is really taking emotional risks and being open to the idea that, like, hey, I might not be like that person, but I know that I can garner my own sense of, like, following, or even like reputation, or own sense of your own voice, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I was agreeing with you with the part of, like you basically just being your own individual, but then it's kind of like when we grow up, it's like having to feel like you have to be in this compete mode and comparison with people, and that stems the jealousy and the envy, like you said. And yeah, it ends up being so very self-limiting how to act in public, like you said, like with your upbringing as a child. And I know we covered this like in our inner child work in the other episode. But yeah, it was kind of, I felt that same way too, because my mom said, hey, if I didn't act a certain way, then I was going to be going to hell, or God was going to punish me. So I was like, well, if that's going to happen, then God's going to punish me anyway. I might as well. So, just go ahead and be the Joker with the baseball bat. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, where did it happen to where we felt like we had to all conform into like this box for a sense of order or power or all those types of things, to where we have to feel like or we make ourselves believe that we aren't good enough, and or magical enough or witchy enough or powerful enough, just because of what somebody says so,
Mm-hmm.
and who am I as an individual? um you and I, we respect each other with suggestion, or when we ask each other for advice or something, and just being like, hey, I'm going through this, I'd really like to know what you think, you know versus like, I'm going to give you the 2 cents even though you didn't ask for it, because who am I to tell
Mm-hmm.
you, like, this is how you should do it, or that is wrong, or because at some point higher self is going to kick in and be like, hey, Gwen, that probably wasn't the nice thing for you to say. And it's like, George, you're right. Like, there's many times George would just be like, it probably wasn't best handled that way. And I'm like, you're right. I got to go apologize, you know? Um, and so I do that. But again, like, not somebody stepping in and being like, I guess, like, third party, and just being like, I don't agree with what you did. And it's like, and who are you to tell me? Who? you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. So,
No,
yeah.
I agree. I just think that I mean, even when it comes to, I had an experience where somebody tried to police how other people should live, because their beliefs, even in this time, were like, well, they shouldn't be doing this because of so and so. I'm like, you know what? I have no interest, and it is none of my business. But at the very end of the day, if they want to go off and do those things, it is their life. It's not going to affect me, because at the very end of the day, there is a thirst for knowledge. to want to know these things, let them, because I don't want to police anybody. I never want to be a person that like instructs people as to, but this is how you're supposed to do it, and this is the right way. And I know because I I think we got, as a society, have gotten so used to like following the rules and not breaking out of character. And when you break out of character, you break cycle. But the thing is, others don't want you to break cycles because they prefer you to conform to their way so that they can only, so they can love you to stay at a certain, level or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were talking, it caught up, but we forgot to say hi, Sue. Hi, Susie. She,
Hi,
everything was
Susie.
fine. Then at some point it was just like, ugh. But anyway, it caught everything. But she made me lose my train of thought too, man. Like I can't, it'll come back at some point. But
Can I just say that since the last recording that we did, she's been popping up left and right for me. And I also assume for you too, because I think that a friend of the pod, Yahira, her name is Toxic Zombie on Instagram. And she also has another, well, anyways, so Yahira, friend of the pod, hi Yahira, had mentioned that she was in New York City, and she said that she wanted to see if, Susie was in a show up for her. And lo and behold, she sent me and Gwen a video of a truck that had said like Susie Sirloin with a cowboy hat and like a lasso. Lasso?
yeah,
Lasso?
a lasso. It's the lasso.
And I just thought it was funny because I was like, all right, so I'm supposed to share you with everybody, by all means. And I also realized that even with certain people in my life, she likes to play and just be like, I like this person. Why don't we hang out with this person? Listen to what they have to say. And I'm like, shush now. I know what's best. It's like, you have so much control. Give up control. Stop. But I think that's where, even going around the lines of gatekeeping, like giving up control. I mean, I don't know if you've also noticed that there's a lot of elders in many magical communities that have a sense of spitefulness, pettiness, and really start to resent the youth or the younger generation, because it's like, well, they didn't learn or they don't know. And I understand, but at the same time, there's a lot of new witches on a witch talk and so on and so forth. There's, it's, witchcraft, magical practicing, different forms of divinity are being exposed, and a lot of people are being a lot more open to it. But there's one thing that I don't like, and perhaps this is my own form of gatekeeping, is that like there's not a lot of information. And you remember last year how people tried to hex the moon?
Yes. No,
What was that?
boo, I don't know. I don't know. No, but you're right. I do think it's really more of the well seasoned, the elders, if you want to call it. Because I can see their point, because again, witch talk, there's only so much you can post to witch talk for a 60-second, a minute video. What are you going to learn in a minute that is witchcraft? Unless somebody really does it, like hitting key points. But the thing is, sometimes you do need further explanation on things, and there needs to be a rhyme, a reason, and as to a why. So, but it kind of shuts off like people like myself, coming in. But I guess maybe age could be the factor of where it's kind of like you have a little bit of that wiggle room. But I could probably still fit into that category and just being like, oh, she's only been like doing this for a year, like coming out and saying she's been doing this for a year. But again, I have some sort of practice from what I learned from my mother. Even though I wasn't practicing then, I was still learning something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a lot, and I
No,
like I get it. I get it. But
it's
it's like you
it's
can't put us
it's
all in
also
that
like
one thing.
discounting someone. No, yeah, it's also just discounting someone just because they haven't done it for so long. Because I watched this show, it's a very popular show. It's called RuPaul's Drag Race, and there's always one drag queen that has only been doing it for a year, and everyone in the competition discounts that one queen,
Hmm.
and they end up winning. But they've only been doing it for such a little time
Hmm.
that everyone's sort of been like, well, I've been doing this for years. How dare you not respect the craft of, putting on the face? And you're young, you don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of goes back to what you and I were talking about earlier. I had a reading, and it comes down to not humiliation, but humility, how you humble yourself.
Hmm.
Yes, this person might be younger or has less experience, but always asking the question to myself, how teachable am I? Okay. And I think at times that's what kind of loses as we get older, because we've experienced certain things and it's just like, I never want to do that again. I'm never going to do that again. And we limit ourselves off for like doors of opportunities to be open. And it kind of goes the same thing with the elders. It's just like, these kids don't know what they're talking about. And it's like, but who's to say that they're wrong? You know? And so that ends up limiting your beliefs, which is gatekeeping you, and you're gatekeeping them at the same time. And you really shouldn't be, because as witches or magical practitioners, whether they're new or seasoned, we're still supposed to be learning regardless, and not closing
Hmm.
off our ideas and our minds to anything else like that. And I think you and I have talked about this like on a private level, but again, it can be a very touchy subject, and I still need to learn more about it. But cultural appropriation is still a hot topic. Not that I'm trying to put it in
Hmm.
this, but again, it kind of still comes into that form of gatekeeping. Again, I'm not saying that whatever we practice, it should be like done by all, but like again, think about it like this: respecting where it does come from, but at the same time, we all belong one and the same as the human race. And again, people might disagree with me because of the color of my skin, I don't know. But again, I am from everywhere. I've got it all. And so it's not to discredit where it comes from, but in the end, when we're all trying to be there for each other, one another, like we would like to be, wouldn't we like to pass down the traditions that may die with a certain generation? Um, because it might not be passed down. Witches and their practices, or even shamanistic practice, or medicine men or women, people died because of this, because the way that they were, and they weren't able to pass it down. So if they
Hmm.
are able to pass it down to whoever took the interest to learn, why not share? And not again, in a very respectful fashion. But like, I don't know. I'm still kind of like finding my thought process about that, and again, still kind of like understand with with that hot button topic right now, and trying not to say something for people to be like unsubscribe. like.
No, no, no. And the thing is, I agree with you with like when it comes to like cultural appropriation, or even like we all know that. I mean, the moment that I saw like tarot cards being sold at like Urban Outfitters, I was like, what is this?
Hmm.
What is going on here? We're selling, why is spiritual, not necessarily spirituality, because tell me like, oh my God, you're so spiritual. I'm like, I'm a human living a spiritual experience. So when you say I'm a spiritual person, you're really saying I'm really much looking at my higher self, and I've awakened to an extent where I'm able to look at have a expanded sense of consciousness to see that a lot of things aren't coincidences. And I appreciate how you say that. I remember joining a live where this person, I know this person in real life, and they're just someone that I have, a client through a transaction. Anyways, we're not close, but we know of each other. And I joined her live stream, and she told everyone that, like, oh, Omar is just a, fortune teller. I was like,
Yeah.
what is that? And I wanted to say something like, first of all, I'm not a fortune teller. I'm more than that. But like, I saw how her limiting beliefs and her ignorance really got her to a place where, she started talking about witchcraft, and she's like, well, I'm not talking about spooky witchcraft, and I'm not this. I'm like, why are you talking like that? First of all, you don't know what you're talking about. Sit down. But it was neither my place to tell her that in the live stream by saying, you're stupid, you're ignorant, I'm going to shut you down right there. I kindly reminded her, this is what I do, and this is what I have been doing. And also, light magic and dark magic are one and the same. It's about intention. So why are you looking at the dark as so scary, spooky, and like, ooh, oh my God? It's not.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting way to look at. You know how we were looking at kind of going back to our other episode, like being witch, defining witch, what it means to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, like, that title specifically has a whole lot of respect and meaning to me. And for someone to, again, put it to being like dark, spooky witch, instead of like hippie, love and light witch, like that kind of thing. It's like, again, witches back in the day had to do what they had to do to change their circumstances. A lot of people, because of societal class, again, it depending cultural ways of things that happened, ancestors, mine especially, they had to do what they had to do to survive because of the circumstances that they were living in. Things were not right. Things were happening. They were under a lot of stress. They were under uh, a lot of living conditions and situations that today we are so fortunate today. I'm just saying. But like it again, if you think back to it in the old days before cell phones, technology, and all this other stuff, like it was hard living, very hard living. And of course, why are you going to try to change the way for circumstances that happened? Finding ways for justice when being treated inappropriately, and looked at like kind of like the black sheep, that kind of thing, and being persecuted. Of course, witchcraft is going to have the ugly side to it, however you want to deem it. But at the same time, you have to look at the circumstances that they were in. And like you said, it's neither light nor dark, because life isn't just black and white. It
No.
is what it is, but there's always so many gray areas into things. So, and yeah, they had to do what they had to do. That's all I can say about it. And so whether you want to look at it as spooky, like, but that's what it was, and that's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, even within, like, I guess, the astrology community, there's a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to, like, there's a thing called degree theory, and a lot of people discount that as not being real. Or even coming down to, like, well, I use how Pleiadius and you use whole sign, and that's not real, and you have to follow this kind of astrology. And in reality, there's Vedic astrology, there's Western tropical, there is Hellenistic astrology. There's so many forms, and I think about it and I'm like, why not learn different forms of astrology? Because at the very end of the day, you're just educating yourself on different forms. And it's
Yeah.
not that like one's wrong and one is right. It's one might work for
Hmm.
you to understand, but you shouldn't like discount someone else's ways of describing the stars, so to speak, because everyone has something, a different experience, everyone has a different form of interpreting. And even with astrology, I'm constantly learning all the time. So when people ask me like, oh well, how am I going to reach your level of just looking at a circle chart and being able to just talk about it for hours. I'm like, listen, when you reach a point when you feel so overwhelmed that you feel like the learning never ends, it's because it never ends. I
Hmm.
have spent countless nights researching a particular aspect and driving myself crazy trying to put the pieces together because like first of all I was genuinely interested as to what a particular aspect or even like a planet being an assignment. But that's when I knew the work started to begin, you know what I mean? And become a lot more important for me because I knew that, like, okay, well, if the work is never going to be finished and the learning is never going to be over, and always going to be a student that is always going to be curious for more and more and more,
Hmm.
who's to say that, like, Vedic astrology isn't real? Who's to say that, like, Hellenistic astrology isn't real either? There's so many different forms, and that doesn't necessarily mean one should like call someone else being like, that's fucking not even real. That's not real astrology. Your form of doing it is wrong.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back down even for like witchcraft practice before you're doing a ritual, calling on the four quarters. Some people do that, some don't. How calling on the elements. And I have mentioned when I read out of the one of the gallery magic books, like if there is a ritual that I'm going to be doing that I need some protection, it's calling on the archangels from north, south, east, and west. That is how I would basically protect myself for a circle before I do a certain ritual that needs protection, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And there's so many right ways to do it. Some people can open and close a circle in their head versus like not stating it, but who's to say it's right and what's wrong, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah. I don't know if this was like we started off so like ooh, and now we're just like I
I'm concerned.
am concerned. I don't
This is
like
not
this.
no, and I don't think of, I mean, for the longest time, I never thought of myself as a healer in any
Smart.
way, but I've been to like a lot of energy healing circles. Thank you. A lot of energy healing circles. I remember the first time I went to one, the guy was like, he was zeroing in on me, like just watching me. He was like, "Are you good at massages?" And I was like, "Yeah, how do you know that?" He's like, I think you should try energy healing. I think you're a healer, or you are very gifted. And a lot of people would tell me these things, and I'm like, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. I see how you're doing it, and I don't do that. And eventually, like, I kept going back to the energy healing circles. We would just meditate in the sun, and he would do it. And I was like, okay. And it wasn't until like I realized, even with my own words, that my words can also heal, but they can also harm other people. But
Yeah.
I know that I'm channeling when like I can go in an endless spiral of just talking, 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 and captivating my audience to an extent where I'm like, I have your attention, but also heavy is the crown, and also this sword is double-edged. So I can hurt
Mm.
you or I can help heal you. But that's where I have to use my level of discernment.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. And you see that a lot too in when it comes down to the teachings for specific deities, goddesses, where they have the powers to heal and harm, where they work hand in hand. in a lot of cultural practices. Yeah, I just the I have a little bug in my ear. And I felt like this warmth and just when you were talking about the story where the guy was like asking about like, are you good at massages? Because you told me this story before, and it's like, yeah, but where are you going with this? You know, just kind of give it a laugh. Like, what do you want from me? Like, you want one? Like,
like, sir, I mean,
no.
you're quite attractive, but what? I thought you were straight.
Yeah, no, but you know, it's kind of like the bug that I got in my ear, and we were talking about Susie, and I kind of like how we're going into this lap is out of 12 steps. I think I mentioned this to you, but I was recording for the channel for myself in particular, and it was getting kind of serious, right? And this is the whole thing with the gatekeeping, I think. Again, it's being respectful with things, doing your research, being open to ideas, and again, just respecting one another, okay? And just where we all come from and just leaving it at that. Um, and honoring that too. But I was kind of like in the feels of the seriousness, and I heard George just being like, rule number 62, don't take yourself so damn seriously. So I kept going, right? And then I couldn't tell, and I called Omar. I have the camera facing the west way. This is my backdrop for my videos, right? And so I have my closet right across in our bedroom. And I've been telling people this. So I think Susie stepped in, and there's like this point where I jump in the video because I'm looking. It's like a pair of shorts that was like ripped out of the closet, just like, you know, just to get my attention. Like they were just thrown down. I mean, it was literally like a foot, and they were folded nice and neatly, you know, no way. And I was like, apparently I'm supposed to change the subject. Like, you know, but again, it's kind of like we always take ourselves so seriously, the subject so seriously, you know, something we're so passionate about, you know, and it's like, can you just like laugh for a minute? Like have yourself I'm doing some advertisement here. Have some practical magic tea and just chill.
No, I agree with you because even like in astrology, there's a lot of different astrologers, and there's a lot of different people that like to talk about the different signs and everything. There's pop astrology where it can be very basic, but not to discount that. It's just that it's informative, it's quick, it's funny, but it's also still. I like to like go on Instagram from time to time and watch these like accounts that like uh formulate an opinion about a sign and just put that statement there. But the thing I have an issue with is that people tend to think that that's all that sign is, or that's all that you can be. You're more than your sun sign. You're more than your rising sign. And it's really just a lot of things. But I'm not going to gatekeep like pop astrology because I know that there's a lot of complexities that come with a particular sign or its expression. So why am I gonna like not deem that as like, oh, take astrology seriously? Why is it in boo? I'm like, it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, and you have to look at everything, and even us as human beings, we're so multifaceted, multidimensional, which is how we started with this whole Gemini twin thing and
Mhm.
shadow, you know, and like and because I'm turning it back around from where we started, but like yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. But I get it like now, like it's again, we are so multifaceted that we can't see each other just as this one thing and just things being just one way. You know, as human beings, we grow. Um, so why do we have to limit a person as how we see them when we know like we're forever changing, you know?
Hmm.
We're not going to remain constant. We're not going to be the same. Granted, we are going to have some attributes that are going to remain the same. Like, some people are just extremely loyal, very patient, very nice. But again, depending on certain circumstances that happen in life, that could change. It really could change.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, it's just like, could you just respect the people where they are? And I just want to be like, can we all just get along? But everybody's just so on the defensive. It's just so, and I catch myself on that too. Like, I'm not afraid to say that. It's like, I catch myself on that too. And it's like, there has to be room for grace here. Like, you understand that. Learning grace for myself, having it for other people, and
Mm-hmm.
again, discernment. Is this person really trying to work on it and change who they are, and really just trying to enjoy life and learn and just be open-minded to learn? And are you willing to do the same thing? That is a very humbling experience for me. So, yeah.
Like, I mean, the one thing that makes me really happy is that when I see someone trying to learn or do something, it could be like, um, we can even take this as like, exploring a new, way of dressing. And it's like, oh, they look really dumb wearing mismatched doing that. They look really silly. But at the same time, what I guess the person that's making the commentary, the critique is not getting is that at least they're straying from where they're comfortable and seeing what clothes or what sort of fashions that fit them or really where they want to belong. And I'd never want to tell someone like, oh, don't wear that looks really bad on you, or like, oh, I hate that aesthetic, so don't do that. And it's like, but what if they can do it very well?
Mm-hmm.
What if they wear better than you do? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that like, I mean, I wear like, I'm not gonna lie, I have really nice boots, but I think that oftentimes I hear, oh, I wouldn't wear those boots all the time because they're so nice. And I'm like, first of all, these pair of boots aren't the only pair of boots I'm ever gonna wear. Two, I enjoy wearing them all the time because they make me feel really fancy and cool and whatever. And why is it that I have to wear my dumpy, boring, whatever shoes to do whatever I want to do throughout the day? Like, I can do that.
Mm-hmm. Because you're comfortable being you and not having to explain, you know?
I mean, there's a difference between wearing like, a Gucci belt on like Hollister jeans, but like,
But I would say that Gucci belt would probably make me feel really fancy.
yeah, just let people live. If people want to enjoy something, let them. It's
Yeah.
like I mean, the one thing that always annoys me is when like people are like, "Oh wow, like I know this band, but I don't want to tell anyone about it because it's for me." And I'm like, "Well, wouldn't you want like that band to like reach a certain caliber of popularity? Because at the very end of the day, at least you were lucky enough to have found them in the beginning and see them grow."
Mm-hmm.
Or like even gatekeeping in the sense of like, well, I knew this person before you did. I'm like, well, who cares? We're still enjoying the same song. It still sounds great.
Yes. Yes. Or the having to prove the whole thing of like, you see, I was right. Like, like what's
I
the
like to
point?
I like to introduce people to several different kinds of like genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes at the moment they're not paying attention and they're like months later, like, wow, look at this song, look at this artist. And I'm like, I told you about this person a long time ago and you weren't listening, but at the same time, who cares? You like them now. Let's talk about it. Let's go to a show. Let's, really enjoy it. I'm not going to tell someone like, well, I was a long time ago knew about this person and you never, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, who cares? They jumped in the bandwagon a little late, but now they're
Mm-hmm.
here
Mm-hmm.
and let's have fun.
Yeah. I what you just said reminded me of one thing. Like contacts, I guess. Um, because I've been told like, it's like, are you sure like you really like don't want to remain in contact with this person because they do know a lot of people. And it's like, you know, that's good for them. Not to be prideful, but it's like, it's going to give me something to work on for me learning how to network as well. Like I can do that. Like, this is not the only source for information that I can go to for assistance. I'm sure I can find it, versus like not having to deal with the ego-esque kind of thing either, you know? So yeah. How I feel about it.
We have a lot to say about gatekeeping.
We did. We sure did. I think I'm gonna leave this in here.
In conclusion, I don't ever want to tell someone how to live or what to believe or how to do something. I know I'm a Virgo, and I can be very like, you did that wrong. You did that wrong. You missed a spot, but at least they tried.
Yeah. I have to piggyback on that too. It's kind of like, look, I'm not saying that I am perfect of it, but again, I know that I am aware that I can do it, but my job is to make sure I keep my side of the street clean and not impose my stuff on you. So
Hold space, essentially.
Hold space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, until next time, again, thanks for listening to our YouTube / virtual / podcast of Down the Rabbit Hole with Omar and Gwen. And we will see you next time. See you
Until
soon,
next
Alice.
time, Alice.
Bye.
Do you want to see the bottom of the deck card?
Sure. Yeah, let's see what it is.
King of Coins. The King of Pentacles.
Queen of Pentacles.
What?
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? So say, hypothetically speaking, because you know, these Scott people got sense of humor now. So maybe they are trying to get us to figure out what our past lives with each other were like. And maybe this was one of them.